How are y'all doing today? My name is David Gugino, and in today's book review, my camera is actually about to die for this one, so we're going to make today short and sweet. And this book is actually another book that I read, which is similar, and I think it's the second book, I believe is what it is, but other than that, I did a book review called Master Your Emotions, and this is Master Your Motivation by a guy named Thibaut Maurice. Or Maurice. I can't pronounce his name. I really need to look up how to pronounce the name. I really do, for some of these authors I read. But this is Master Your Motivation, and I found this book through Master Your Emotions because I thought it was interesting. And this book is mainly about finding motivation and direction, and to really think of your future with the actions you have in the present time. Because a lot of people think that the way they act now is not going to affect them in the future. So a good example of that is ambition, for example. I don't think I'm super ambitious or as ambitious as I like to be, but people who tell themselves how dedicated they are, how hard they work, where in reality that might not be true. And there was a book review I did on here, and it was something called the effect. I can't remember what the effect was called. I want to say the burn effect, but there was an effect that they had where they did an interview where I'll have to look it up or do a clip where I can find it, where they do an interview of a bunch of people who think they're good at something, and they interview them with experts. And these experts pointed out, like, yeah, they're actually not that good at it. And the principle was that since they've been telling themselves so long that they're good at it, they believe they were good at it. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be lying to yourself for so many years that you eventually believe it. And I forgot my phone, and now I'm thinking about my camera dying. So we're just going to dive into the book here of Master Your Motivation. So let's look into it. So obviously, I do love to start at the beginning of each book. So we're going to start with the beginning here. And this is how the beginning starts off. There's part one called Assess Your Situation. So listen to this. When we feel stuck, we often over-dramatize things. We sometimes lose sight of the big picture. And it may feel as though we're never going to drag ourselves out of the slump, but this is never the case. Motivation can disappear quickly, but it can also return just as rapidly. This is normal, so give yourself some slack and acknowledge that how you feel now is okay. Feeling unmotivated or depressed doesn't make you less of a person than you were a few days or weeks ago. Happy and enthusiastic, give yourself a break. Take it easy, release the pressure, and allow yourself to relax for a while. So honestly, think about that. Feeling unmotivated or depressed doesn't make you less of a person than you were a few days or weeks ago when you were happy and enthusiastic. Give yourself a break, take it easy, release the pressure, and allow yourself to relax for a while. So the reason why I say think about that is because honestly, you're going to have your days where you're not motivated to do stuff. You're going to have your days where you're going to be like, you know what? Like in my last video when I mentioned something about sleep. Have a day where instead of starting your day at 6, just sleep till 8. Let yourself sleep, let yourself recover. If you're not feeling motivated, find out why you're not feeling motivated. But honestly, having a day where if you go on a grind for weeks and weeks, like for example with working out, if you go on a grind for weeks and weeks on making your legs grow, and then let's say they do grow, and you're like, well, you know what, let's try to make them bigger, and then you keep going and going and going with your legs, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm kind of getting sick of working legs all the time because of the motivation, because eventually it's just going to be hard. Now, I understand you can't quit anything because it gets hard, but you can take some rest and really ease your body into things that are hard in life. It does it in a much more strict way. When you go to boot camp, there are some people there who are not used to exercise at all and getting screamed at all the time and then staying up late or even days at a time and still trying to train their minds to function. So that's something to think about. But the other thing that we have here is when we feel stuck, we often over-dramatize things. We sometimes lose sight of the big picture, and it may feel as though we're never going to drag ourselves out of the slump. You will also have days like that. You will have like a really bad day, or nothing will go as planned for that day, and you're going to be like, you know what? It's been a really bad day. I feel like a slump. But you got to think it's a day, and also probably the stuff that happened could not have only been worse, but it's probably not that bad. Now, I got in a car accident, which was bad, but I was in a dangerous area. I slid on ice, went off the road, hit a guardrail, and I would much rather the car get damaged than me get hurt. And then I was 3 hours late to work. I had to discuss a car getting to me, and this all lasted a day. But then the day after, I'm like, no. It all lasted a day, but then I was training for a powerlifting meet at the time, and I debated, should we go work out, or should we just go home for how bad of a day it's been? Well, I chose to work out. Now, if you have a bad day, you can take some time off, but honestly, if you can still do your work and still pursue your goals when you're having a bad day, you're a pretty tough individual. But honestly, you should never feel like a slump just because you had a bad day. Is about trusting the future you. Now this can either be really, really good or can be really, really dangerous. Because honestly, when I started the beginning of this video talking about your ambitions or like how you act now isn't going to affect you in the future. It is, because people who party and drink all the time, when they have no other goals, and as they get older, I mean, yes, they might work and move up in their job, but all they know outside of their job is partying. And not only that, they'll probably develop health problems. They might get a random girl pregnant. A doctor might, health problems. And then before you know it, they might be literally addicted to alcohol and partying. Like as in, hey, I'm so attached to it, I have nothing else I want to do with my life, and that's what they do. And some of those people, I mean, there's nothing wrong with drinking, but it cannot be your life. I had friends who originally went out and partied every weekend and went to bars. And honestly, if you look at guys who go to bars, or at least the bars that we have in town, they don't look super ambitious. But the point that I'm making is, the way you act now will have an effect on you in your future. Like me doing these and me reading, I mean, I honestly fear not having the motivation to want to continue to read, to want to continue to lift weights, to want to continue to do stuff like this. I'm a little worried about that myself. Why? Because I've done this for 5 years now, and if 20 years go down the road, I think my mind's on me, David, do you think you will still be doing this 20 years from now? I don't know. We'll see. But it's also all based on your mentality. If you have the mindset to change, you can change. If you have the mindset to want to pursue something, you can do it. And more importantly, if you have the mindset to want to be a better you in the future, you can do it. So trusting your future you, listen to this. Like most people, you probably worry about the future and are desperately trying to place yourself there in your mind. I suggest this is nothing but total insanity. You can never be somewhere else other in the now. You can never be somewhere else other in the now. Sure, you can visualize your future to help you take better action in the present, but this is not what I'm talking about. Here I'm talking about your attempt to change your future by worrying about it. This comes from the false belief that by doing so, you can alter your future. Unfortunately, this is not how things work. Merely worrying about tomorrow's presentation isn't going to be of much help unless you actually do something in the present to ease your concerns. So think about what he just said right there. Unfortunately, this is not how things work. Merely worrying about tomorrow's presentation isn't going to be much help unless you actually do something in the present to ease your concerns. So just think about that for a second, to ease your concerns. Now, I'm concerned about my future, and there are probably people who are in their 50s or 60s and say they're concerned about their future. Why? Because no one knows what the future holds. The movie I believe I brought up on this channel called Born on the 4th of July with Tom Cruise. It's a true story about a guy who was gung-ho fighting in Vietnam, but not only did he end up killing his friend, and not only did he not become a hero, but he also came back paralyzed from the chest down. Now, the movie is a very emotional movie, and it's sad, but at the end of the movie, he finds purpose in really critiquing and criticizing the war, knowing that America said they swindled him. They didn't really mention how horrible it was over there, and he got roped into it and became a war critic, basically. Wrote books and ended up living a life after everything happened. Because in the movie there's a scene where he looks at his life and just sees hopelessness. Because he's got nothing else he can do with his life. But the point that I'm making here is at the time, he was in high school, wrestling, he graduated, was going to the military, he could walk, and he goes, huh, this is something I want to do. And here's the unfortunate thing though, he didn't know that's what his future was holding for him. And he didn't worry about his future was the other thing. He did not worry about it, but still it was not what expected him to happen. Still it is not what he expected to happen during his time over in the war. But, a particular story in that particular movie is that you can find purpose in life if you set your mind to something. He still found purpose in life even though he couldn't do much. And as part of his life story was turned into a Hollywood movie that actually had some really famous actors. And it's like a 2.5 hour movie. It was a long war epic that won a few awards. Tom Cruise did a good job. And the real guy, what he said about the war, ended up living on. And he's still alive to this day. So, that is what you do, is you find purpose. Now, trusting the future you, honestly, I like what he says here. I suggest this is nothing but total insanity. You can never be somewhere else other in the now. Sure, you can visualize your future to help you take better action in the present, but this is not what I'm talking about. Here, I'm talking about your attempt to change your future by worrying about it. So think about that. I know what he said there about visualizing. I think it was Arnold that said it. The more you visualize something, the more it becomes a reality. And that can be true to an extent, because there is hard work, there's the setbacks, there's the problem solving and stuff like that. But when you visualize where you want to go and you just say, hey, you know what, I'm right here and it's not reality, unfortunately that's going to make you miserable. And for two, that reality is doable. See, you can do whatever you want in your life if you set your mind to it. Now, there are some industries that are much more difficult, like the music business, the acting business. I personally believe the music business is harder than the acting business. Why? Because music, it's really, really hard to be different in, but also, there's like a new rapper or a new singer every year who made it, but they probably made it because they started about 10 years ago and just kept making song after song after song, and they finally made that one song that became a hit. See, a lot of people don't understand that there's going to be a grind that might happen. It takes years to become an overnight success. Years. People who get, who got really famous off of that and made all that money. Now, that is rare when that happens, but now, did she get lucky there? She got lucky because the right person was recording. She could have said that on her Instagram page or one of her friends' Instagram page or Instagram Reels, and her friends and the people she was around was like, hey, that was really funny, but it was the guy making the video that made her really famous. Of the future, there is, but you have to work hard to get to the luck. There's risk and there's luck, and they're like, I did that in my last video, they're two best friends. Risk and luck are two best friends that you need in order to become successful in your future. So the third and final point that I have in this book is my camera is about to die, so I need to really hurry this up, unfortunately. But the third and final point I have about is temptations. We're all tempted to do something. Like in my last video, I mentioned doom scrolling as a temptation. And yes, it is a definite temptation. But the reason why it's a temptation is because you look at girls, you look at life, you look at just other people living a life that you want. But then before you know it, the reason why temptations are dangerous is you might be like, oh, I'll watch 10 minutes of this, or I'll watch 20 minutes of that. And then before you know it, an hour, 2 hours goes by, and you're like, wow, I can't believe I did it. And you might think, yeah, but 2 hours only went by. 2 hours is time that you could be doing something. Not only that, but it puts you behind on pursuing your other goals. Now, how do you get rid of temptations? Well, listen to this. Listen to this, what I have for you. The point is, when you remove unnecessary temptations and create incentives to adopt desired behaviors, you start decluttering your mind from compulsive thoughts and their associated unproductive behaviors. What I may have heard, the truth is your environment impacts your life to a far greater extent than your willpower ever can. To change your life and your actions, willpower alone is often not enough. You must also change your environment. For instance, in the past few days, I've been struggling with writing my latest book and was falling behind on my schedule. To overcome the situation, I disconnected the Wi-Fi on my computer. I made it so that I need to go to another room, look under my internet box, and enter a lengthy password. This might sound silly, but it worked. Rather than trusting my willpower, I altered my environment to work with me instead of working against me. Anytime you have friction, you make a certain adverse behavior less likely to occur. Another example would be to remove all the junk food from your house. So now, why did I just read that paragraph? And why did I just read that little thing? Because when you declutter your mind and remove everything that you are like thinking about that's going on in your life is going to be better and less stressful. Like, for example, when I do these or film these and do my editing, I think I have no time in the world. But then I did the math. I need like 2 to 3 hours throughout the day to work on this, and it all adds up. And like with weight training, I need an hour and a half to weight train. And like what he mentioned is, I think that's a little far-fetched, disconnecting the Wi-Fi, making a lengthy password, and putting it in the other room. But it worked out because he got work done and wasn't distracted by it. But also, listen to what he says here. Your environment impacts your life to a far greater extent than your willpower ever can. So when you're talking about willpower, it's like with losing weight. Oh, I'll beat the hunger, I can do it. Yeah, once you're hungry and you continue to stay hungry and you continue to be hungry, and then before you know it, you're just eating like cheesecake or burgers or cookies, and you're like, you know what, we can treat myself with a burger. Then you put all the weight back on. See, willpower does not do much. And it's unfortunate to say that, but there are other algorithms and formulas to get rid of distractions and to beat them to where they don't take hold over you. And changing your environment's hard. It has to be out of your own doing to take your phone, disconnect the Wi-Fi, make a lengthy password, and set it in another room. Now you might think, well, that's willpower. I'm like, yeah, but you no longer need willpower when you realize you have to have a whole process just to get into your phone. You will no longer need willpower when you have to walk to the other room to go get it. You'll no longer need willpower, for example, with getting up early in the morning. When your alarm goes off and it's halfway across the room, you set it there the night before, but right when you turn it off, you're like, you know what? I'm already up, I'm already standing, I'm already walking. And the environment is you're already up, whereas if the phone was lying right next to your bed, and you just touched it, you could easily throw your arm back over and be like, you know what? We're going to fall asleep again. So in reality, when you change your environment and change the way things are around you, you can get a lot more done, and it really will change the way you function and on how productive you are with your goals, with your life, and through your day. So overall, this was a very good book. Now what I really love about these authors' books is he puts it plain and simple, but I underline not just sentences, I underline paragraphs and just things that he said because it's just so wise to me. And I just really like the author. His name is Thibaut Maurice, and let me see here. Let me see what he is, because I believe this is what he does. He's a personal development blogger, author, and founder of whatispersonaldevelopment.org. He is featured on a bunch of major personal development websites such as Lifehack, Goalcast, Tiny Buddha, Addicted to Success, or Motivational Grid. Obsessed with self-improvement and fascinated by the power of the brain, his personal mission is to help people realize their full potential and reach higher levels of fulfillment and consciousness. In love with foreign languages, he is French, writes in English, lived in Japan for almost 10 years, and you can learn more about Thibaut at whatispersonaldevelopment.org. But the reason why I like his books is just I underline paragraphs, everything he says is great. I've actually learned a lot of how to manage my motivation and emotions through his book, because you have Master Your Motivation and then you got Master Your Emotions. And this is a very good book to read. It's plain and simple. It helps you really work around your motivation, change your environment, on how to be more productive throughout your day. Because a lot of your goals is productivity. You have to do what you have to do for your goals, and you just have to do it, and you have to do it. Speed matters only when you have other stuff to do throughout the day. And I don't care who you are, you have the time to do something different with your life. And that's the takeaway for this video, and it is you have the time, and you can do something with your life. You are not stuck in one place. You have the power and the capability and the focus to do what you want in life. You just have to work on your motivation, your productivity, and removing things from your environment in order to get that focus. So you can do something with your life. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope you read this book, and you all have a great day.